A rioter who threw bricks towards police and protesters at the height of the Hanley riots has been spared prison. Now, Hasnen Iqbal attended the violent disorder in Hanley and spent most of the day, it says, trying to dissuade other Muslims from taking part. I assume that is his defense when he's been arrested for what he'd done. Now, he's been given a 16-month prison sentence, suspended for 2 years, because it's been described by the judge as an unusual case. Now, I was looking for stories to do the day and I came across this story, and the reason why I wanted to bring this to the viewer's attention is because we all know how unfair a lot of people were treated and still are being treated, because there is a lot of ongoing cases still after the summer riots of last year. Now, what about Peter Lynch? Peter Lynch was sentenced to prison straight away, wasn't given any second chances. Someone who was of previous good character and an old man at that. And he couldn't handle the prison because he isn't the type of person to end up inside a prison, and he killed himself. Now, Hasnen Iqbal is a 28-year-old man who went to take part in the violent disorder. Now, he has went on to say, which you would do when you get arrested for something, you come up with a defense to try and get the least possible time inside of prison. Now, Hasnen has said he was down there to prevent other Muslims from taking part, and he said that the police were only doing their job and he was trying to dissuade other Muslims. This is what it says in the article. He was trying to dissuade other Muslims from taking part. So if he was trying to dissuade other Muslims from taking part, why then has he been hurling bricks at the coppers? But what I find staggering as well is the way that they're describing Hasnen Iqbal in these articles, because it does say a dad who threw brick towards the police and protesters at the height of the Hanley riots has been spared prison. What about yobs? When it's the other side, they get branded as yobs. When it's people with Facebook posts, or when it's Peter Lynch or Lucy Leppy, far-right yobs. But when it's from the other side, it's a loving dad who threw bricks. So I'm well going to go on and tell you a bit about this article, what it's exactly saying in here. The 28-year-old told one counter-protester that the police were simply doing their job. A man from the other side who had been injured but midway through his time, Hanley, he assisted a man halfway through. And then it goes on to say, but midway through his time in Hanley, he picked up bricks and threw them towards the police and other group members. Iqbal has been sentenced to 16 months in prison, suspended for 2 years at Stoke-on-Trent Crown Court after a judge described his case as extremely unusual. Extremely unusual or not, everybody else who was involved in these types of riots weren't given no second chances. People who have never been to prison before were remanded into prison, waiting to get sentenced. So prosecutor Thomas Quinn said Iqbal was in Hanley on August the 3rd when police tried to keep rival protesters apart. Iqbal wore a beanie hat and was recorded saying the police are doing their job. At 12:08, he walked away from Broad Street before returning 10 minutes later. He walked towards Trinity Street as there was a protest outside the Best Western Stoke City Centre Hotel. He arrived and was prevented from going any further. The group moved towards the Tesco car park An hour later, people moved towards the mosque on Town Road. Police formed a group across the road. The defendant was seen to be with this group. At 1:50, a group of men left and headed towards Potteries Way. Some of the group were carrying weapons. The defendant was not carrying a weapon. So if you're with a group out to cause mischief and disturbance, this group is carrying weapons, you have no part in this disturbance, and you see people with weapons, what do? You get as far away as possible. What did Iqbal do? Stayed with the group. Police intervened to prevent any disorder. The group moved their way towards the mosque. They stopped before entering the car park. The group, including the defendant, picked up bricks, threw them towards the police and other groups. The defendant threw 2 missiles which fell short and landed on the road. He picked up a large brick and discarded it into a hedge for later use. He later picked some similar projectiles and threw them in the direction of the road. At 2 p.m, the group went back towards the mosque. At 3:24, the defendant and a group were captured on CCTV on Litchfield Street, and they moved on to Tontine Street towards the Blue Clock. Mr. Quinn said the defendant had a t-shirt over his face. What does this tell you? He is now covering his face in amongst it, ready for the disturbance. He was there at 1 p.m. It's now 3:24 p.m. What is he just there being a peacemaker, helping people, telling people not to throw missiles at the police? They're just doing their job. Whilst wearing a t-shirt across his face so he can't be identified, and he's been identified throwing bricks at the coppers. The court heard Iqbal was not with a group of Muslim men who ran down the street lashing out indiscriminately. 2 men were assaulted at Greg's, but the defendant played no part in that. He was there, but he played no part in it. Is that not joint enterprise? Part of a group causing a disturbance with a bandana on across your face? As the police line advanced, the defendant and the group retreated. It is clear that the defendant went on the aid of an injured person on the ground. An injured person from his side of the party. He's went and helped him across the road, which you would do if you're with a group. Your group's been injured, you go and help them. He walked back. It seemed to see how the man was. He crouched down towards him and gave him some water. The man was appreciative of this, which you would be. In a prepared statement, Iqbal said he attended the mosque as he'd been told the ADL was attacking businesses, the English Defence League. Was the English Defence League not disbanded a number of years ago? It no longer exists. So he wasn't up to date with that story either, was he? He said, we wanted to prevent any incidents from occurring. By the time I arrived, they were by the mosque, shouting and throwing missiles. It was never my intention to become involved, but I accept in the heat of the moment, I threw items. I immediately regretted my actions. So why then, an hour and a half later, you were seen still doing it? Beggars belief. I accompanied the group to ensure no more violence would take place. Oh, and they fell for the story. Fucking gobsmacked when I'm reading this. Yes, fair dues, he's getting off with it. He hasn't went to prison. Brilliant. I didn't want the man to go to prison for it. But Peter Lynch went to prison. Lucy Connolly went to prison. 100 of the men and women went to prison for not committing violent acts. Facebook posts. If you watch the video with Peter Lynch, the police were brutally pushing him. He was just standing there with a placard, peacefully protesting. And he got, I believe, 2 or 2.5 years in prison. And like I mentioned earlier on, he couldn't handle the jail because he's not cut out for it. So he done away with himself. I stopped a further group from attacking Greggs. I am deeply remorseful for my actions. However, I attended with the best intentions and regret throwing the items. Whether you regret throwing it or not, you done it. You pleaded guilty to violent disorder, like a lot of people did, and got sent straight to prison. Haley Parks mitigated and said Iqbal was aware of the destruction the violent disorder caused. She conceded the custody threshold had been passed, but she urged the judge, Graham Smith, to suspend the sentence. Miss Parks said he was a person who was just gesticulating to people to come back from the incident. He helped the protester. He does express genuine remorse. So did Peter Lynch. She added his actions in throwing projectiles is contrary to that, and he is ashamed of what he'd done in the heat of the moment. She said Iqbal's previous convictions were when he was 18 and 19. He is now a father, husband, and a valued member of the community. He's 28 now. It was only, 9 years ago when he had these previous convictions. He does present a realistic prospect of rehabilitation. Judge Smith said Iqbal's case was extremely unusual. He went on to say, apart from one isolated incident in the middle of your time in Hanley, all of your attendance to be for the purpose of preventing disorder and encouraging others to not take part with a fucking balaclava on. You told a person that the police were only doing their job. You did throw missiles in the direction of protesters, and there were police in between. Those most at risk of injury were police officers. Your decision to do that is very difficult, to understand given your general attitude on that day. So now it doesn't matter that the police were in the middle. The police officers were most at risk, so you're disrespecting the police officers now by saying it's only the police that were in the middle, so you were only at harm of harming them. You have shown clear and genuine remorse. You are assessed as being a low risk of reoffending. The incident that took place, although very serious, was completely out of character in the last 9 years of your life. It can and will be suspended. Unfortunately, we didn't do the same for Peter Lynch and Lucy Connolly because they were far right. Am I right in saying that? Absolutely. This case is absolutely fucking absurd, if you ask me. But like I say, I thought I'll bring this to your attention because they will not show you this on the BBC or Sky News or any of the mainstream media. I'm quite surprised. I wasn't even going to do this video today until I came across it. And I couldn't believe it because I've done videos on Lucy Connolly, excuse that slip of the tongue there. Lucy Connolly and Peter Lynch. And them poor motherfuckers are in prison and one's in a graveyard now because he couldn't handle prison. It's just absolutely blew my mind listening to this. Like I've said, I'm not someone that says he's send them to prison, put them in jail. Yes, there was unrest from both sides. Everyone was fucking heated and angry. But if you're good enough to send the likes of Peter Lynch and Lucy Connolly and other people like that who's just hasn't done half as much as this, give them years in prison. But yet they haven't given Iqbal prison time because as they're praising him in the paper, he's a devoted father. He's a respected member of the public. He done it out of character. Peter Lynch was an old man, never been in trouble before. He had a placard up there protesting. He wasn't up there with a balaclava on with rocks chucking him at the coppers. There was no such acts of violence from him. So why did he have to suffer and end his life inside a prison? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section, people. And let us know exactly what you think of this case. Take care, everyone. I'm going to leave that one there for now. Enjoy the rest of your day and stay safe.